Hi, this is C.Ficklin at CorallAFicklin.com or welcomenetwork.com, and welcome is spelled WYLCOME network.com, or istudyguides.com, or the last site that you can go to. We have many more, but these are the most visited. Explain, and let me spell explain for you. ASKPLAIN.com. Explain.com. Now, the other video that I made, I talked about the book that I wrote, looking at understanding and speaking English metaphorically. And as I said, it contains over 1,000 something pages. Research. I did research in all different kinds of dictionaries, not just American dictionaries, not just Webster, for example, but also Oxford, Cambridge dictionaries, all different kinds of dictionaries, all different kinds of English. And what I was trying to do, or what I think I succeeded in doing, is looking at all different kinds of expressions with all different kinds of verbs. Basically, those verbs which are considered extremely important in English. For example, as the verb to get, the verb to be able to or can, the verb to be, the verb to take, the verb to set. Basically, those verbs which generally are irregular, and those verbs which, if you know anything about the etymology of verbs in English, and especially about the etymology, that is the history of irregular verbs in English, most of the irregular verbs in English, number one, they're Germanic. They're Germanic versus Latin-based verbs. Also, they are some of the oldest words of the English language. You can find all this information at our different websites, because I've done a lot of writing on English, and one of the things that I really love to look at is the history of the language and when words came in, certain words came in, and where do they come from, and the etymology of those words. So what I thought I would do today is from the book Understanding and Speaking English Metaphorically, or Metaphorically Understanding and Speaking English. I give you some expressions, some very, very common expressions in English, and see if you understand these expressions. Because I think it's very important that you understand, because you understand when it comes to your own language, that understanding a language, not just literally, but also understanding that language metaphorically, is extremely important. It's in that area of the language, the metaphoric area of the language, that's where poetry comes from. That's where jokes come from. That's where puns come from. That's where the gray area of the language is. And frankly, it's one of the hardest areas to teach, because it's so strongly connected to culture. So you can look at English metaphorically, and in certain expressions, in certain words, you might find those expressions in American English, but you won't find them in British English, Australian English, English that's spoken in Canada, because we all have different cultures. You might not even find it, if you're looking at regional, you might find it this might be very strong in the southern part of the United States, but let's say in the Northeast or out west, people don't know what you're talking about unless you give them context, and they'll know the context, and then they'll know. Okay, so I'm going to give you some expressions. Now, all these expressions are with the verb to be. In the next video, I'll use other verbs, but these expressions are with the verb to be. So once again, when I'm looking over here, I'm looking at the actual website where the expressions are, that you can always go into and access them. As I said, the book contains, and everything is free, by the way, and the book is on the web. The book contains, let's say, 1,272 pages, about 500 or so, maybe about 450, because there's about 50 pages on things about the English language that might be interesting, the history, looking at puns, looking at all different things about English that could be problematic or challenging, as I like to say. Right? That's a euphemism. Challenging, tricky, another euphemism. So you can go on the website and get all this information. But let's just see what you are able to understand. If I said to you to be a back door, do you know what that is? What's a back door? Now, I don't mean literally when you're in your house, there's a door in the back and a back door. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm speaking about English metaphorically. I'm speaking metaphorically, figuratively. Okay, now here's the explanation. And this is how you'll find all the explanations. First, you'll find the expression to be a back door. And then you'll find what that means in much more standard English. To be done in secret. To be done under the table. That's another metaphor. When you do something secretly, you do it under the table. In Spanish, it's strange because they say under the water, bajo el agua, under the water. But we don't do it under the water. We do it under the table. You do it in the dark or far from everyone's or anyone's view. So something, when you say to be a back door, that means to be done in secret, under the table, in the dark, or far from everyone's view. And then normally, when you see the expression, you see what the expression means, and then you'll see maybe a sentence. Not everyone has a sentence. Not every expression has a sentence, but generally speaking, yes. By anyone's definition, this is a back door deal. And a backdoor deal is that two people get together, decide on something, right, without anyone else knowing about it, and then they come out and say, well, we've decided on doing X, Y, and Z, and someone says, or the people say, it doesn't smell right. When something doesn't smell right, that means, right? It smells fishy. When something doesn't smell right, it's fishy. It's suspect. And you say, that's a backdoor deal. Okay, let me give you another one. To be a backseat driver. Do you know what it means to be a backseat driver? Once again, I'm not talking about literally being in the back seat of a car or a truck. Okay? Here's the definition that you'll find. To try to control something which is not that is one's responsibility. So if I'm a backseat driver in the life of my children, I'm trying to control their life, even though once a child gets to a certain age, his life is his own. So to try to control something which is not one's, that is one's own responsibility. And here's the sentence so you could see clearly what it means. Stop being a backseat driver in your son's or maybe daughter's life. He is a man or she is a woman. Let him be a man or let her be a woman. Let her be an adult. So stop being a backseat driver. Okay, so time goes quickly. So when I come back, we're going to look at more expressions with to be, because I was only able to do 2. And we'll do a couple of expressions. Sometimes I won't give you the definition, and you can look it up, or maybe you already know the definition. So once again, this is C.Ficklin at CorralaFicklin.com or WelcomeNetwork.com.